James Earl Jones was an icon and inspiration as a performer to many people. However, specifically to people who have spent any time trying to make art or make a living in voiceover, podcasting, or anything in those or adjacent worlds, his contributions represent the gold standard for what it's possible to achieve with a voice. The ways businesses advertise have changed a lot since 1997, but when I hear,
drive your business with an ad in the Bell Atlantic Yellow Pages, where people go to buy, find, or do just about anything,
it doesn't feel all that ridiculous to think of even a modern advertising executive giving serious consideration to the phone book. For these contributions, a lifetime spent as the voice of gravitas incarnate. Thank you. Beyond words.
Hello there, everyone, and welcome to a special installment of 6 Degrees of Star Wars for one of the least fun reasons. We are gathered here to commemorate James Earl Jones, who passed away on September 9th, 2024, at the age of 93. He lived an incredibly long and full life with a very, very impressive career that was probably defined by no role greater than his vocal contributions to Star Wars as the voice of Darth Vader. Of course, there are plenty of other roles to know him from. How iconic do you have to be that in a stupid CGI remake that they're trying to pass off as live action, they still won't recast you?
there's a sound down there in the throat somewhere. I just don't know how to reach it. Keep it rolling.
It's incredible that, there's so much wrong with that live-action remake. It might be the worst Disney movie of the last, 10 years.
Not live action.
We are speaking broadly. But man, James Earl Jones, he still had it.
Was everybody's first James Earl Jones Mufasa, or did we have some for whom Vader was the first?
I was not a Disney kid growing up, so I did not grow up with stuff like The Lion King, but growing up in the early 90s, I was exposed to movies like Coming to America.
I tied my own shoes once. It is an overrated experience.
The Hunt for Red October, and I think it was Field of Dreams that I first knew him from.
Oh, people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
Mine was actually The Sandlot, believe it or not.
It was signed by Babe Ruth.
George signed this?
George Herman Ruth? Yeah.
I take it back. You're not in trouble. You're dead where you stand.
Oh yeah, I forgot he was in that.
Oh yeah, that one. What about you, Sid?
I always knew of his existence. I know that was worded very in a very odd way, but I grew up in a Black household, so I was familiar with a lot of his roles. My parents watched Roots, so I know him from that. I know him from Coming to America. I know him obviously from the one. Claudine is another film that I know him.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to cover that one.
Right, okay, now wait a minute. Now, if I marry this lady, I want to make things better. But if I spend $1 on it, you're going to deduct it from her, right? If I want to buy a little something extra, you're going to deduct it. And I better report every penny I spend, or else I'm a crook.
Yeah, it's an interesting movie to discuss. And another, this wasn't a film per se, but it was a film production of Driving Miss Daisy. It was one of the first pro shots I saw of a play with and he starred alongside Angela Lansbury in that production.
Holy shit. I saw the magazine cover going around that was him and Angela Lansbury and Jerry Stiller, I think.
Another great actor, rest in peace.
Frank Costanza himself.
It was something like Legends of Hollywood, and it was taken 5 to 10 years ago, and with his passing, now everyone on that cover is gone, which it's really something to make you think, because as these people pass away, we're also kind of feels like the end of an era, the end of a very specific way that actors made themselves known. Like, I can't think of a lot of actors now who can just be recognized and have an impact by their voice the way James Earl Jones was. The closest I can think of is Chris Pratt, and I shudder when I hear his voice.
Well, it kind of reminds me of that story about Kevin Michael Richardson watching James Earl Jones on Sesame Street and him dramatically reciting the alphabet. It scared him, but it also sort of influenced his voice work, and it sort of showed him that he could actually do voice acting because of that iconic voice.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
It's one of those things where, like, I feel like there's probably been actual stuff written about this, but like the paths to actual show business are getting so much narrower that I feel like we're missing out on a lot of really great actors. Because say what you will about James Earl Jones, he was not a nepo baby.
Yeah, I mean,
although his father has his own Wikipedia entry saying that. But that's sort of like, I don't know if you can really say that about any non-white actor before.
Yeah, but he also, like, we're talking about somebody who was working as a janitor to support himself at one point, so I don't think we can throw any nepo baby allegations.
Exactly. That's one of the reasons why I think that, like, broad statements like that are kind of just not very helpful. But I feel like there's lots of, he is part of a very different era of Hollywood that is sort of like, coming to a close. There's that XKCD comic, this year is the year the last of the original cast of Star Wars dies, and like we're getting close.
That's a different existential crisis in and of itself.
Not as long as we have Warwick Davis.
No.
Warwick, we're counting on you.
Warwick, you gotta live forever.
I know that's a lot of pressure to put on you, but please.
It's interesting that, like, one of the things that I always find interesting about James Earl Jones's relationship to Star Wars was he never became like, hey kids, it's Mark Hamill, but he also never really like went full I was in this thing, I want it dead, the way Alec Guinness and Harrison Ford did. He seems to have like a pretty healthy relationship with his like iconic roles. I guess having another major iconic role kind of helps that out.
Though, do you think it may have had to do with, like, he was when Star Wars was first released, he wasn't credited. It was only until like the reissues that he was credited as the voice of Vader.
They gave him a credit in Return of the Jedi, but he was incredibly gracious in trying to advocate for David Prowse getting much more of the credit as the physical performer, which is more than David Prowse did for him.
Yeah.
To be clear, by 1970, James was already an Oscar nominee. He got nominated for a play that he won a Tony for on Broadway, The Great White Hope.
Now, white folks, of course, are behind Brady. I mean, he's the redeemer of the race and so on. But you, Jack Jefferson, are you the Black Hope?
Well, I'm black and I'm hoping.
Answer him straight, Jack.
Hey, look, man, I ain't fighting for no race. I ain't redeeming nobody. My mama told me Mr. Lincoln done that. Ain't that why you shot him?
And I don't even remember who won in 1970, but I'll just say, robbed. I don't like that James Earl Jones has an EGOT only because he has a non-competitive Oscar. Like, that just feels wrong to me.
He lost to George C. Scott and Patton, which is another movie I don't really like. I'll get to it someday.
I think he's one of the first, not one of the first, but I think his nomination was monumental in terms of like Black Oscar nominees.
I think he probably would have been the first since Sidney Poitier.
Yeah.
As our resident Oscar expert, God, that's a fun sentence. It's the field of Black Oscar winners is so
narrow.
Thin. It's honestly like every time I think about it, it just bums me the hell out.
Okay,
Hate you
yeah,
so much,
definitely
John.
the first Black Oscar nominee in that category since Poitier.
Mhm.
You know what I say? The Oscars suck until the person you like wins.
No, see, that's why I'm the Oscar expert, because the Oscars always suck. I just occasionally give to movies I like. You gotta be consistent.
Mhm.
I sent you the clip, as I recall, Sam, of him in Field of Dreams, which is like, I feel like that's underrepresented James Earl Jones
Mm-hmm.
performance, but man, he's so good in that.
What are you doing? I'm gonna beat you with a crowbar until you go away.
So I've never seen Field of Dreams.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I've never seen Field of Dreams all the way through. I mostly know it for the if you build it, they will come thing,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't nearly as fun as.
I'm gonna beat you with a crowbar until you go away.
The thing about Field of Dreams is that it is so sentimental. It is so hard to swallow. And then James Earl Jones comes in with like not only gravitas but like some actual cynicism. He does this speech at the end about like the importance of baseball. I don't even fucking like baseball, but man, that speech will just get you. And I think that he was so important to that movie because I think that like if that speech didn't work, the movie's fucked. Movie's fucked. Get rid of it.
I do admire that in 1969 he participated in making test films for Sesame Street.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
And if you don't know, Sesame Street was made to cater to Black and brown children in inner cities.
Jesus, I'm looking over all this. I didn't know he was in Jesus of Nazareth.
He's been in so much stuff, and you look at it and some that you're like, oh my god, James, this is crap, but you were still probably giving it your all. Like, I
Mhm.
put out a tweet about this. I have never seen a James Earl Jones movie where he was not the performance that stayed with me and completely captivated me. And yet I would never call him a scene stealer because you could always tell that he was one of those actors who was giving back to his fellow performers and giving back to his audience, and you could feel the love of the craft and the love of the people he was working with.
Of
Yes.
course, Sam. You know what movie we recently watched together that had him in it?
Oh.
We're gonna have to talk about now.
No, I have not seen it, and I know he's easily the best actor in that movie by far.
Talk about 1979 Criterion Collection classic, The Bushido Blade.
I'm going to hurt you, Ellie. I am going to hurt you so badly when I catch you.
I deserve it. No, I think we even said during the episode, like, it's an incredibly bad movie, and then James Earl Jones shows up for like 3 minutes, and it's like, hey, it's like a real movie. It's quite something.
Honestly, I feel bad that I haven't watched more of the work he's put out there.
No, but even with some of the smaller roles that he's done, like he's done narration for like a lot of smaller films and maybe quote unquote silly films like Scary Movie 4
or Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. And then he was also in this really classic animated fairy tale series called Happily Ever After. He did the voice for the king in the episode about the Valiant Little Tailor.
He did documentary narration.
He was the narrator for Third Rock from the Sun. He wasn't even credited for that.
I feel like one of the things that I like about actors of his era is like, as much as they treat it as an art, they're also willing to treat it as a job. Like, there's that famous, possibly apocryphal Michael Caine quote, I haven't seen Jaws 4, by all accounts it's terrible. I have seen The House It Bought Me, and by all accounts it's wonderful. Like, at some point, I don't want to give an actor shit for just like, I'm just going to be in this movie because I need something to do. Need some money.
It's probably not the case for when he was like in Treehouse of Horror in The Simpsons. Like, he is having fun there.
He was a huge part of like early Treehouse of Horror. Or just early Simpsons, like getting it off the ground.
He also worked quite a bit with Cicely Tyson. I believe they were close friends, and now they're both gone. And Cicely was also an amazing actor, and she's also an Oscar nominee.
They both should have won in their respective years. Like,
yes,
I know this one.
robbed.
All due respect to Liza Minnelli.
I'm just looking over his like filmography, and I do love getting down to where they separate television films from feature films. I think because they wanted to put the holiday special in a separate area.
Yeah.
The fuck is the lion dog? You know what? Don't tell me. Don't tell me, Wikipedia.
Also, he voiced Santa Claus in Recess, and Recess was a big part of my childhood.
Oh.
Obviously, I did not know about James Earl Jones, but that voice is the one that immediately stands out.
Of course he was in Law &
Yep.
Order. Everyone's been in Law & Order. I've probably been in Law & Order.
He was in The Big Bang Theory. I think he was with Carrie Fisher in that one.
Oh
or
yeah,
was it...
The Big Bang Theory. I love that story of how this is how he met Carrie Fisher in person for the first time, and she ran over to him yelling, "Dad!"
That's another person I miss a lot.
I don't like The Big Bang Theory, but it was on at my house a lot, so yes, I have seen that episode. But it definitely was, it's a joy to hear him go, "I like Star Wars too," when you consider how many people now have had their lives been made miserable because they were in Star Wars.
Oh, I forgot to mention, he was in Fences. That's also something that I remembered him from the original production of August Wilson's Fences. I'm not a huge fan of Fences, to be honest. I'm just not a fan of the messaging. I think it's kind of old-fashioned.
Well, it was written a very long time ago, wasn't it?
The play was published in 1985, but I think it premiered in 1980.
Okay, so 80s had a lot of iffy plays.
That is 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And it takes place in the 50s, so...
Another layer of oofs.
Yeah. It's like very much like forgiving your abusive father and like blah blah blah. And I don't love that. But I love the performances. It's a legendary cast. It's James Earl Jones, Mary Alice, who also passed away 2 years ago, or it's going to come up 2 years. And she is also a legendary actress as well. She won a Tony for that role too. And yeah, it's great. I don't think there's a full pro shot available, but there are videos available, like snippets of his acting playing Troy, the father.
Mm-hmm. I've seen the "I Don't Have to Like You" one going around.
Who in the hell ever said, "I got to like you"? What law is there to say, "I got to like you"? Do you want to stand up in my face and ask me some damn fool-ass question like that? Talk about liking somebody. Come here, boy, when I talk to you. Straighten up, goddammit. Ask your question. What law is there to say, "I got to like you"? None. All right, then.
God, what I wouldn't have given to be in a theater and feel that voice shaking every corner of the room.
Also, wasn't he in a production of Lear?
Yes.
Because if there was a pro shot of that, he'd be magnificent.
Yeah. With Raul Julia, too.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Raul has been in a couple
will
of Shakespeare
definitely
in the
cover
Park
that at some point,
productions.
assuming Jazz doesn't beat us to it.
His father looks a lot like him.
Yeah.
Like, I actually thought I was looking at him when I was looking at his father.
It's placed in the Wikipedia page in such a spot that you're like, hey, that's young James Earl Jones. I don't know if I've seen... I think I've seen the movie version of Fences. I don't think I know if I've seen the, theater version. I know... I read The Piano Lesson by the same author for a class at one point. Interesting. August Wilson's an interesting guy.
Yeah, he is. And that's getting a film too, The Piano Lesson. I think it's coming out this year, late this year.
I think it is. I've seen The Piano Lesson. One of our friends has been in The Piano Lesson, and I went to see her in it, and it was great, and she was great, but it is also another play that's kind of heavy, and the messaging is a little muddled when one considers a modern audience and intersectionality and that kind of evolution. And that's not a bash on August Wilson. You have no way of knowing what is going to happen to your work in the future. Like, for all you know, you are a veteran and icon of the Japanese film industry, and suddenly some little twerp from California is like, I'm going to add white people and robots and space lasers into your story, and it's going to be one of the most successful films of all time. And I'm going to tell everyone how much I love you. And he gets nominated for an original screenplay Oscar because of it. That was a Hidden Fortress joke.
That was a very good Hidden Fortress joke. Now, if you ever want just like a rundown of how incredibly long-lasting James Earl Jones's career was, his first film role was in Doctor Strangelove in '64.
Oh yeah, I forgot he was in that.
He's not in it a lot, but he
I've
is also
never
one of the...
seen it, but
You've never seen Doctor Strangelove? Wow. That's a classic.
I'm not the biggest fan of Kubrick. I've done The Shining, and I'm like, that's enough Stanley Kubrick.
Oh wait, George C. Scott was also in it?
George C. Scott's great in it, yeah. I do think Strangelove is my favorite Kubrick. He's not in it a lot, to be fair, but also, like, he's one of, like, only a handful of actors who came from away from a Kubrick production not hating his guts. So
kudos to him,
I guess.
God, family, God love you, but you needed to not be exhausting to be around for your actors.
Or exhausting to just work with.
It's a shame.
Oh shit, James would have actually worked with Sidney Poitier because he was in Sneakers at the same time Sidney Poitier was.
That's a great
I've never
movie.
seen Sneakers, but David requested a clip from it, so...
I'm going to be sick. Are we done here?
No, not yet. Whistler. I want peace on earth and goodwill toward men.
Oh, this is ridiculous.
He's serious. I want peace on earth and goodwill toward men.
We are the United States government. We don't do that sort of thing.
Just gonna have to try.
All right. I'll see what I can do.
If you get a chance to watch Sneakers, I think you would like Sneakers a lot. It's probably, I don't know if it's aged badly so much as like it was actually reasonably accurate hacker stuff in the 90s, so that's not like even a little accurate anymore. But it's like, it's a genuinely like really great, really fun film. You have no idea how this
I'm
like...
looking at the cast here. It's like Robert Redford, Dan Aykroyd, Ben Kingsley, River Phoenix. There are a lot of big names here.
It's incredible how this like fairly low-key movie has just like one of the most stacked casts until Ocean's 11.
That's a lot of James's filmography, honestly. You see a lot of stuff where it's like, wait, there's how many people in this? I mean, I'm just scrolling back and forth now, and suddenly I see Jack and the Beanstalk, which had Gilbert Gottfried, Chevy Chase, Chloe Grace Moretz, Christopher Lloyd, Katie Seagal, Wallace Shawn, and then at the bottom, and the voice of James Earl Jones for Jack and the fucking Beanstalk.
And I'm also looking at Meteor Man. There's Robert Townsend, Marlon Gibb, Bill Cosby, Luther Vandross, Sinbad, John Cheadle, Tommy Lister, Jennifer Lewis, Wallace Shawn. Chris Tucker is in it too.
We're all missing the most important James Earl Jones performance, which is apparently a narrator in Click.
And what?
Click.
Oh
Click.
God, no, don't, not Adam
What's
Sandler.
Click?
He gets a credit
Don't
for
worry.
Robots. I recently watched Robots for no other reason than remembering that it's, like, actually a really prudent thing about, you know, healthcare and planned obsolescence and all that. He has one fucking line in it, and he still is credited for it, and, like, he didn't have to do it. They could have ripped archive footage, but he didn't.
No.
I think he did it. I think he came into a studio, did one take of "The Force is Strong" with this one, and then he left.
I forgot he was in Soul Man.
Oh yeah.
He was the professor who did not know that the kid who was obviously not black and thought that he was black. If you don't know what Soul Man is about, it's about this white guy
God.
who
Yeah.
dresses up in blackface because in order to get money for a scholarship to attend Harvard.
No. James, why?
The check. Also, Ray Dawn Chong is in it too, and she's the love interest.
Oh
Ellie, if this ends up on my podcast and I end up having you on as a guest, I will submit a formal apology to you for my complaints about Green Book.
You know what? Yeah, that's fair.
Oh wait, Sneakers wasn't the only film that James Earl Jones was in with Sidney Poitier in a piece. He was also in a piece of the action in 1977.
Oh wow.
And that was also a Bill Cosby film.
Oh God, Bill Cosby. That means
Yes.
it's on the Over Your Dead Body list.
Yes.
Yeah, because unfortunately, Bill Cosby is still with us.
Ugh.
Just further proof that we are in a bad timeline. But as we've been taking this little troll through his IMDb/Wikipedia page,
Conan the Barbarian. He was in our Schwarzenegger film.
in spite of all of this, there are a lot of movies in his filmography that I haven't seen that look worth seeing, and I may be biting myself in the ass for doing this, but considering his contribution to Star Wars in particular, I am bending my long-standing rule that only the leads of projects or trilogy trios get to be degree 2s. James Earl Jones, you are a Disney legend, you are an EGOT, you have a theater named after you, you are one of the most iconic performers and voices that has ever been. May you rest in peace and may you rest in power. You're getting promoted to degree 2.
Yeah.
I haven't rolled a lot of 2s,
Yay.
but I think you deserve it. I don't think anybody can think of Star Wars and not think of you. I'm gonna finish this off by saying that while I don't want to interrupt our Hispanic Heritage Month selections, since we've already recorded one and we will be recording one soon, we're gonna dedicate our Halloween episode to James's memory. I'm gonna put aside the usual system of the Chance Cube. I've found 6 Halloween-y movies that feature James Earl Jones, and that is what we will roll on the Chance Cube as we set up our Halloween episode. Once again, thank you, James, for all the iconic performances that you have given us over the years.
Here's to you, James Earl Jones.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Given the solemnity of the occasion, I think we will forgo plugs for this episode.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I want to say thank you all for being here to help me celebrate this artist, and stay safe, stay strong, stay beautiful.
Look at the stars. The great kings of the past look down on us from those stars.
Really?
Yes. So whenever you feel alone, just remember that those kings will always be there to guide you. And so will I. May the Force be with you.